All right, I think we are live. Hey everybody, my name is Chris Raulf. I'm the founder of Boulder SEO Marketing. I'm super excited to have Brian Saemann of Go Beyond SEO on the podcast here. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Looking forward to the
Awesome.
conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me on your podcast not too long ago. So I'm very excited to continue this conversation. Hey, Brian, why don't you briefly introduce yourself, our connection? So we do organic SEO, we do content
Sure.
marketing. We're really good at that, right? You're more, or you're also in the space of pay-per-click. Why don't you
Mhm.
briefly introduce yourself and then let's dive into this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. You got it. So, Brian Saemann, I am a co-founder and co-CEO of Go Beyond SEO. So, it's an agency that I founded with my wife about 16 years ago now. So, we have been doing this for a while. Really started off with SEO being our core offering back then, but quickly grew on the PPC side as well, particularly Google Ads. So that's really our main focus now. We still do SEO as well, but really focus in on essentially what is lead generation mostly for local businesses, small businesses. So really helping them get as many leads as they can so that they can grow their business.
Okay. I mean, whenever I talk with potential customers, right? I mean, this is what we business owners care about, like
Right.
leads that we can then turn into customers. When it comes to SEO, I think a lot of or digital marketing agencies, they try to confuse their clients by creating these fancy reports and these metrics and this and that and pull data from all over the place. I'm like, I'm so sick of it.
Hmm.
I don't think we've done a good job, early on when I started this business because you're so excited as the expert to, provide all that data to the client. But
Yeah.
what are we, before we get into the questions that we came up with, like, how do you present data to your clients? Like,
Yep.
is it pretty straightforward?
It is. It is. I try to be as straightforward as possible. I try to talk in normal business language as opposed to kind of marketing speak, right? As marketers, we love our TLAs, our three-letter acronyms, right? We've got
Yeah.
one for everything, right? SEO, SEM, PPC. We've got them all over the place. Interestingly, Chris, I think I had a similar experience as you, where in the beginning I was excited to share all of this stuff and was just like, look at what we can see, and da, da, da. And then had business owners come back to me like, well, why do I care? Like,
Yeah.
I don't care about that. What I care about is, are my sales folks talking to more people? Are we getting more customers? So over the years, our reporting has definitely gotten way more simplified. I use an analogy a lot of the times with, because sometimes now, right, clients are doing their own research. They're looking online. They're trying to figure out, hey, can I do this on my own? Is this something I'm able to do, or can I, one of my employees, can I get them to do it? So they've usually done some research and they're starting to get familiar with things. So like they're even looking at vanity metrics that just don't mean anything. You don't need to worry about that metric. I get it. Bounce rate means something, but it's not something that we're going to get freaked out over because we paid for the traffic to come to this page. They're not necessarily going to stick around for the longest amount of time, right? It's just something that you have to deal with there. So the analogy I like to use with clients is, you remember those old school stereos where you had like the big bass knob and the big
Oh, yeah,
treble,
yeah,
and then there were all those little knobs too. Like the bass and the treble were the only two that really mattered, and the little ones were kind of like small little tweaks here and there. So I try to tell clients like, hey, that's a little knob. We want more clicks for sure, but not if that means our cost per lead is going to go through the roof or our cost per customer acquisition is going to go through the roof. So you're always trying to strike that balance between with the things that really matter with what might be perceived as a vanity metric.
awesome. And then actually one other question before we dive into the canned questions.
Yeah, yeah.
So lately I noticed that when I do calls with customers on primarily organic SEO, they want to
Hmm.
know everything. What do we do? How do we do things? They got great detail. It feels like
Yeah.
I'm hosting a workshop, right? And calls. No, seriously.
Yeah.
calls have now increased from usually, half an hour, 40 minutes to like an hour and a half or 2 hours where I
Yeah.
explain them exactly how we do things. Do you see the same thing when it comes to pay-per-click?
I do see um, a more savvy buyer, I will say.
Yeah.
I think on the SEO side, people are doing more research and they're going to have some detailed questions on how it happens. I get that a little bit on the pay-per-click side, but I would say it's more just about their savvy. They want to know how much is going to cost me. They used to ask me how much is going to cost for a click, right? Now they're like, no, no, no. How much is it going to cost for me to get a customer? And so I'm having that conversation a bit more. They don't get too into the weeds as far as like, how we're writing copy or how we're structuring campaigns. We usually do explain that to them, but that's when I run the risk of, eyes are rolling over and they don't really care. They just essentially want to get leads and customers. So I do see it because in the beginning, when we first started, I would say, let's do some pay per click, and people would ask me, what is pay per click? So there's definitely a savvy buyer out there now. They're aware of what it is. They're aware that it's going to cost money, right? A lot of the less savvy buyers think it's just going to be a silver bullet for them. Oh, I'll run 500 in ads. I'm going to get 5,000 in customers. It's going to be the greatest thing ever. It doesn't work that way, right? You can definitely get it where you are making a return on your ad spend investment for sure. But maybe in 2006 you could be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to throw 500 in and see what happens. Now it's a much more it's a bigger commitment now. It's closer to what traditional was back in 2006. It's like, all right, we're going to build campaigns out. We're going to make sure we're saying the right things. We're going to make sure that everything is holistically helping each other. And really, I tell clients, you got to run for 90 days. You've got to
Yeah.
give it 90 days.
Awesome. All right. So let's dive into PPC. What exactly is pay-per-click advertising and why is it
Sure.
particularly effective for local and small businesses?
Yeah, there's definitely some confusion around the term PPC. Again, us as marketers, we like our three-letter acronyms, but it essentially is just pay per click, right? So in the beginning, when Google really was the I guess disruptor in this space when they came out with Google Ads and it was pay per click advertising. Before that online, everything was pay per view essentially, right? So it was Yahoo
Yeah.
with banner ads and all of that. So the value proposition Google came to the market with was, hey, stop paying for people to look at your ad and start paying for people to click your ad and come to your website or come to your landing page and actually see your offer. So that's really where the term pay per click came from. There are plenty of other platforms that do pay per click advertising now. I mean, even in Facebook Meta, you can arrange your campaigns so that you're paying per click. But I wouldn't say as marketers, we don't really refer to Meta as a pay per click platform, right? You can also pay per impression and all those things. So we think of Meta, Instagram, Facebook as really just paid social. And over time, pay per click has really come to mean essentially Google Ads, which is the 800-pound gorilla in the room, Bing ads, which are now Microsoft ads. So it's really more of like your search pay-per-click advertising. There are programmatic platforms and all kinds of other ways you can go and pay per click. But typically when we refer to PPC, we're talking about Google ads or Microsoft ads.
Awesome. So I often talk about micro SEO. It's the SEO methodology that we invented and trademarked, which focuses on leveraging human-driven AI-assisted SEO strategies designed specifically to help smaller businesses outrank even bigger competitors organically in the non-paid search results, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from your experience, how can small businesses best integrate PPC alongside organic search engine optimization strategies like micro SEO to maximize their online visibility?
Yeah, I personally think that getting pay-per-click advertising and your SEO strategy aligned is where you can get some real value. So that might be you're running pay-per-click advertising and you're finding a really high value term inside of your campaigns, but you haven't found it in your keyword research, right? Or you've found it in your keyword research, but a lot of keyword research from a volume perspective, especially for local businesses, it can be off, right? Like none of those numbers are perfect. You have to kind of actually rank for those terms and see how much traffic comes before you know exactly how much there's going to be. Well, on the pay-per-click side, you can speed that up because if you're willing to bid on that term, you can get the traffic a little bit more quickly, or at least see what that volume is there. And once you have a winner on the pay-per-click side, once you have a keyword where you're like, okay, like I'm seeing the return I want to see, well, now let's implement that micro SEO strategy and make sure that we're ranking organically for that term too. Because really, at the end of the day, organic is almost always your best source of traffic, right? It's going to be the one where people are probably highest intent. They're coming to your website. They know about you. That they're here to potentially engage in a transaction. Whereas paid, they might not be as far down the funnel at that point. So I think using paid to inform SEO, and also one of the things you have to worry about now too. Well, before I get to that, I'll say an SEO can also inform the paid. So as you're doing the micro SEO strategies, you're seeing pages, you're getting the traffic, people are coming, they're turning into customers. Well, okay, well, let's make sure that we're also running paid ads on that too. And the reason, and this is where I was going a second ago, is because Google's constantly changing the search engine results pages, right? They look different than they looked 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They're going to look different in a year from now. And really, I think the strategy now is you have to be in as many places as you can possibly be on that search engine results page, because people have changed really how they click on things, right? They used to have all the ads at the top, then they had all the ads on the right. Now they're back at the top. You have the Google Maps pack that gets shown now. You have the organic results. You have the people also ask section. So there's just so many ways to get onto the Google engine results pages now. That is, the more methodologies you can use, the better off you're going to be.
Awesome. And we don't even have to talk in length about it, but I just watched a video with Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google. Google I/O just happened, right? And I mean, to me, it's very clear that AI overviews are going to be shown more and more, even for locally related search terms. We just opened a new office in Fort Collins, and we did a good job already showing up right in the map pack and then in the blue links. But man, Google is now already showing AI overviews, or now, as they're called, AI mode, where they talk about, oh yeah, Boulder SEO Marketing, founded in 2009. Also just recently opened an office in Fort Collins. So they surface relevant content through these AI overviews. Just very briefly, I know this is brand new, but do you have any idea on where this is going in terms of ads? I think they're still trying to figure out how to serve ads or place them. Do you know anything about this so far?
So I know that Google had the recent release that people, their minds have been blown. Like, okay, it looks like Google might be taking the lead in the AI space here. How it's going to affect particularly local search is still unclear. We know that particularly with informational keywords and keywords where people are doing research, almost 100% of the time, Google is going to show you an AI overview. When you start getting into more local searches, and you're right, they are showing up in local a lot more now than they were even, say, three months ago. But if I'm searching for, let's say, plumber in Boulder, there's a less of a chance that an AI overview is going to show up, although they are starting to show up now. And I think you're right. I think that Google is trying to figure out, okay, if we show AI overviews here, what does that do to how people interact with the SERPs, right? So they are running tests now. They're trying to figure out, if we show this short AI overview, does that mean they're more likely to click, less likely to click? Can we charge to have people in these AI overviews? Which I don't think that they would go in that direction. They're more about giving you the information and then running an ad next to it. So it's going to be interesting to see how Google figures it out, because at the end of the day, Google can talk about self-driving cars, and they can talk about Gmail, and they can talk about all the other things that Alphabet does. But where they make their money is on the clicks of these ads, and they don't want to cannibalize that. So they're going to have to figure out a way to give the user the experience they want, but also give the advertiser, get the advertiser the results that they're expecting. So it's going to be interesting to watch for sure.
Awesome. Brian, I don't know about you, but I mean, I'm excited. Finally, something is changing, right? I've been doing this for nearly 30 years before Google was called Google. This is exciting. I watch videos every day, and I'm excited to see where this is going.
Oh, it's wild. Yeah, it's very
Oh
exciting.
yeah. Cool. So let's bring it down a notch here. Are there specific PPC pay-per-click platforms or tools you recommend that deliver the best results for like local businesses? Could you share your top two or three and briefly explain
Sure.
why these platforms outperform others? Let's say I'm a plumber in Boulder.
Yep.
Give me a few
Yeah.
examples and then the tools and why.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got the main one, that the one that I've been touching on already mostly in this conversation, is Google Ads, right? So I think we all know a plumber is probably going to advertise on Google Ads. And Google has actually made some changes over the last few years where they've added, on top of their PPC platform, they also have a pay per call platform. So that's called Google Local Service Ads. So if you do run a search on something like plumber in Boulder, you're probably going to get two ads right at the very top, and it's direct, really designed for mobile advertising. If I was on my phone and I saw it, if I clicked it, it would directly call that plumber. So it's gotten to a point where Google says, okay, you don't have to pay per click. We're actually going to charge you by the call. So this person is actually calling you and they are talking to your team. So that's something new that Google's been doing. They rolled it out a few years ago, mostly in the professional services space, and really over time have just hit more and more industries. So you're seeing those local service ads at the top of the search results very, very often. Another platform out there, particularly in the search space, is Microsoft Advertising. And I see a lot of small businesses, local businesses, kind of miss the boat on Microsoft Advertising. Now, I'm not going to tell you that it's this, blue ocean place where it's, you've got all this opportunity, but I will say there is traffic there. It is local in your area, and it is so easy to set up. You essentially can build your Google campaigns, export them, import them into Microsoft Advertising, and run them, right? So it they've made it very, very easy. If you have a successful campaign on Google, you have a very high chance of having a successful campaign on Microsoft. So it is absolutely worth testing out. And I think most people think, oh, there's no traffic on Bing or Microsoft, so I don't bother. But if you're able to, make a profit off that traffic, it might not be the same level of profit you're making off of Google, but profit's profit. I'll take it.
Oh, heck yeah. What's the difference between cost per click, just generally
Mhm.
speaking, Google and Bing?
Yeah, they're typically pretty close. I would say Bing's maybe around 80% of the cost on Google. So you can save a little bit. Again, get more traffic at a less cost, so to speak, on Bing. There's just not and I still call it Bing, so I'm sorry. I don't know what Microsoft's calling it these days, but I'm married to Bing advertising for whatever reason. But the traffic levels is what's going to be the constraint there, right? It's not going to be the
Yeah.
cost. And yeah, you might see a bit more clicks for your money, but there's just not enough traffic to really scale that out. But it is something that if you're running Google, you really should test and see if it makes sense
Yeah.
for you to run Bing.
I mean, it also comes down to, I think, a little bit the older generation. Some people,
Mhm.
they use Bing because it's default on some
Yeah.
computers, right? Is that something that you assess when you talk with potential customers? How do you, talk about buyer persona profiles, and how does that
Yeah.
trickle down into what you do?
100%, especially I find in B2B spaces, uh, really Microsoft becomes a necessity at that point because you're right. It is automatically downloaded onto lots of PCs. Lots of companies give their employees PCs and they don't really let them mess around with the PCs, right? So it's like, hey, you're going to use this and that's what you're going to use. So we do see in B2B campaigns much higher levels of traffic from Microsoft. So I would say if you're in that B2B space, you want to explore Microsoft no matter what. So that's the biggest thing we see. But as far as having the conversations with customers about buyer personas, again, in that B2B world, that's super important. You need to know, not just what my client is selling, but who are they selling it to? A lot of times in the B2B space, they're selling it to more than one person, right? It's like an entire buying committee that is researching this purchase, depending on how large the purchase is. So you want to make sure that you're creating campaigns that are going to hit not just the person who's doing the research, but also the person who's influencing the research or the person who is influencing this purchase decision. And you need to make sure that you're providing information really at all levels of the buying journey, right? So right from they're just becoming aware to, okay, now I really know what the problem is. How do I solve it? To where they're comparing different solutions against each other. And you really want to make sure that you've got your funnels built so that people are seamlessly going from that awareness stage all the way through to consideration and purchase. And it can take a long
Awesome.
time, particularly in the B2B space. It can be a long selling cycle. It can take a while.
Oh, I know. So, man, I already took two golden nuggets away from this conversation. One is definitely local service ads, and then don't neglect Bing. So, moving on
Awesome.
to the next question. So, when you're setting up and managing a PPC campaign for a local business or small business, what are some commonly made mistakes or misconceptions you see? And how could business owners avoid these pitfalls right from the start? I know I burned through some money. I made those mistakes. What's your take on this question?
Sure. Yeah, we all have, right? We've all made mistakes. That's how we learn. But yeah, I see this. So I see a couple of things all the time. Two major things that I'll talk about. One, and this is as basic as it gets. If you're not tracking conversions, why are you bothering? It astonishes me. I actually did an audit on a company last week, spending $30,000 a month on Google Ads that the owner of the company was running, and there is absolutely no conversion tracking. I'm like, so really at the end of the day, you don't even know if these are making you money or not. And he's like, well, I know because if I turn it off, I stop getting phone calls. I'm like, okay, so now at least you know, all right, I'm making a profit. All right. I mean, there was at least $4,000 of clicks every month that he was just lighting the money on fire. There was no way anyone who did these clicks was ever going to purchase from him. I was just like, man, you have to get your conversion tracking dialed in. I mean, he was advertising on partner networks. It was not going to work. So biggest thing, get your conversion tracking in. If some people are contacting you via phone call, you got to have phone call tracking as well. You just those are two non-negotiables. Absolutely have to have it. People fill out a form, and you know exactly what keyword they came from. People make a call, and you know exactly what keyword they came from. So that's really the biggest thing. Then I would say inside of campaigns specifically, you just see poor structure, right? It really does take, you need a good 2-hour whiteboarding session to like structure out a proper PPC campaign. Like you want to make sure you know all of your products and services. You want to make sure you understand how people search for those products and services, what they might ask Google or an LLM about those products and services. And you really have to organize your campaigns around how people search. So Google has, and Bing does this too, they have a thing called quality score. And essentially, the higher your quality score is, the lower you can bid and still appear number one, right? So they basically take, if your bid is say $2, then they multiply your bid by your quality score. And then that number is called your ad rank, right? So let's say I bid $2, my quality score is the highest it can be. It's a 10, it's a scale of 1 to 10. So then my ad rank is going to be 20, right? So somebody bidding $4, but their quality score is a 3, their ad rank is only going to be 12. So even though they're willing to bid double, their ad is going to show below mine. And the reason why you really want to structure your campaigns around the way people search is because the way you establish these quality scores is the relevancy between the keyword, the ad, and the landing page, right? And that all gets created at the ad group level. So you want to make sure that you have ad groups where, if I type in chain link fence, the ad isn't going to say wood fence, and the landing page isn't going to take me to a vinyl fence landing page, right? Like you have to make sure that all of that is really dialed in and done in a way that Google understands. And then you get those high quality scores and you can really scale a campaign out at that point.
Do you see when a website is properly optimized from a organic standpoint, high domain authority, do you actually spend less per click? Does that factor into PPC campaigns?
That is an excellent question. I don't know. I will say I've never researched that because usually we're sending paid traffic to a landing page and not
Yeah.
directly to the website. I will say that when I see a well-optimized website from an SEO perspective, it means that they have actually put thought into this. They understand how their customers look for things and search for things. So I can usually take the sitemap or the navigation, and that's a good starting point for me when I'm starting to whiteboard out exactly what their campaigns might look like. Whereas sometimes I come to their website and it's just, they're like, yeah, I have 20 different product lines, and you don't see any on the website. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think the level of SEO expertise on their website speaks to, okay, the business owner has at least thought about this. They've hired somebody to help them create good content and get it on the website. So we're probably one step ahead.
Awesome. All right, so especially nowadays, budgets are often tight for small local businesses. What are some practical tips or strategies you recommend to keep PPC costs under control, yet still drive impressive returns on investment?
Yep. So I will say I want to go back to that conversion setup. Like, it's just something that has to be done. And I think it ties back into, and I'm not promoting myself here, hire anybody, but you need a professional. Like, I understand that Google makes it very, very easy for you to start your campaign. They want you to just, it's a nice smooth workflow to, oh, take out your credit card and let's start running and we're going to grow your business. And Google makes a lot of recommendations inside of campaigns now, right? Oh, try this, try this. Look, Google's looking to make money. Like, that is what they're trying to do. And I hope they don't hear this and get mad at me. But, those recommendations are not always the greatest recommendations for your campaign. So if you don't want to hire a professional to come in and do it, then you do have to take it on yourself to learn. Like, you can't just set it up and set it and forget it. You've got to take a course. You've got to really dive in and learn how to do these things, because otherwise it's kind of like the gentleman I was just talking about. I mean, $4,000 a month, he was just lighting on fire. I'm not going to charge you $4,000 a month to manage your campaign, right? And he also has no idea which campaigns are working or which keywords are working. So it's impossible to scale out. I could take that 30,000 he's spending, bring it down to 10, learn what's actually working, and then expand him out to 100,000 a month, and his business will actually grow instead of just giving all of that money to Google and essentially lighting it on fire. So like
Brian,
it's
oh, go
crazy.
ahead.
No, go
Yeah,
ahead, go
look,
ahead.
I'm not delusional. I've been doing this for 30 years. Google loves making money. They care about their stakeholders, right? They haven't
Mhm.
developed tools that people like, but it's just they like to make money.
Of course, yeah.
So, luckily there's people like you that see what's going on with VPC campaign, and then you can optimize that and, hopefully have that person hand less money over to Google, maybe give you a little bit so that you can better manage this
Yeah.
campaign.
Or even if they hand over the same amount, I'm not looking to take money out of Google's pocket. Just make sure it's working for you, right? Like,
Yeah.
just make sure it's actually working for you before you give them more. That's all I ask. Because otherwise, you just have you're only going to be able to take your business to a certain level. And if you're looking to really grow, you want to make sure you have those things in place that you can just scale on top of.
Yeah. Gosh, already running out of time here. I do have another question for you, though. Could you share just a brief case study or example from your experience where PPC performed exceptionally well for a local or small business? I'd love for our listeners to hear about tangible results that show what's really possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you two stories. I'll give one of a small local business and then one of more of a regional player. So a small local business here in Charlotte, it was a law firm. It was two guys, one of which was pretty fresh out of law school, right? And lawyers, like, you got to be an entrepreneur. I mean, they got out of law school. If they don't want to take a job at a big firm, they're just hanging a shingle and they're trying to, go to work. It's a sales job as much as it is a legal job. So he got out of law school. He actually created his own Google Ads campaigns and started getting some clients. He did a good job, right? Like, I mean, as far as like a first step, he did a good job, and he started to grow his practice and started to make some money. He then merged with another gentleman. So they kind of merged their two practices together. And at that point, we're like, okay, we probably should have somebody take a look at this Google stuff. So that's when they called me. I came in, I audited their stuff, fixed them up, and then they ended up giving me the management, right? So now they're two lawyers and they had a receptionist. They don't have to spend the time or the energy worrying about the Google ads and whether it's working and how it's working, because I took that over. Well, they were able to build out their business systems, and they grew in about 4 years from two lawyers and a receptionist to about 12 lawyers. I
Wow.
want to say four paralegals, a legal assistants. Like, they really grew their business through PPC. So it was really exciting and fun to watch. Like, I really enjoyed that relationship a lot. Really got to see them grow. And then they got to a point where they were like, "Hey, Bri, like, we're big now. we want to do PR, we want to be in Charlotte Magazine, we want to do this, we want to do that. And I'm like, I don't do that stuff, guys, you know. So, you know, eventually they got so big, they're in the magazines now. But yeah, I've done that on more than one local business. We had an acupuncturist here in town. She had one office, started taking over her PPC. Actually, she wasn't even running. So we started her PPC and grew her in 5 years from one office to 3 locations, right? So she was just able to get in enough clients that it was like, okay, I've got too many patients now. I need to hire another acupuncturist. And she just slowly but surely, you know, scaled up her business to 3 locations. So that was fun to watch too. Um, the regional one I'll tell you about, they sold a big ticket item, right? So their cheapest item was around $15,000. It was essentially like mobile homes, trailer homes, and they had a very good traditional media funnel, right? They would advertise in newspapers, they directed people to a specific landing page or to a specific phone number, and they kind of worked the sale that way. So I was like, okay, but you're advertising in all these little small newspapers throughout the country. Trust me, these people are online. So we started doing the keyword research and we built that and we 10x them. I mean, they had no idea the level of interest that there was for what they were selling, that when we could bring them from that traditional space to the online space, it literally 10x their business within like 2 years.
Wow. Well, I hope you have those case studies up on your website. Those
Yeah.
are incredible stories. Yes, I think our businesses are very similar, right? Especially when I hear what I heard before, where you say basically your client outgrew you because you helped them.
Mhm.
Like we swim, in our lanes, right? We're really good at organic SEO. You excel at, PPC. So that's why we teamed up. So if
Yeah.
anybody listening to this podcast, if you're interested in PPC, reach out. I'll connect you with Brian. Brian, any last words of wisdom? One more tip that could change somebody's lives?
Well, I'll say don't look for the thing that can change your life. Don't look for the silver bullet, right? It all requires some effort and some energy, but you really can achieve amazing things if you do lean in and just do that stuff. So if there is a business owner out there who really does want to run their own Google ads, great, do it. But like I said, got to get yourself educated on how to do it correctly, because otherwise you're just making a huge mistake. You're setting yourself back.
Awesome. Well, hey, Brian, I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Maybe we can do a follow-up in half a year from now. Thanks so much for being on my podcast, for your time. Again, anybody interested in speaking with Brian or me, feel free to reach out. Contact information below in the description field of the YouTube video. As always, stay safe and healthy, and thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chris.